everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the Xceed Toolkit for .NET MAUI. My name is Matt and I work as Technical Director at Xceed. For those who are familiar with Xceed, you probably know that we've been working on a WPF toolkit for many, many years, which is a desktop platform. We wanted to broaden our horizons a little bit, so we wanted to do multi-platform. We investigated a few environments and different offerings. We checked Uno, we checked Avalonia, and some others. But at the end of the day, we're mostly a Microsoft company in terms of what we build. So we decided to stick with .NET MAUI. So as we explored what is available on the framework directly, obviously we realized that there were a lot of gaps and a lot of controls missing from even simple controls. So we decided to take our expertise that we have from WPF and bring it to .NET MAUI. Right now, our toolkit does not include a lot of control, but some of them we needed to build from the ground up due to missing features from the controls available on the framework. I think MAUI is a great platform, but I also think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of their desktop controls. So the toolkit that I'll be showcasing right now actually works on all platforms: iOS, macOS, Android, and Windows, obviously. So let's take a look at what we have to offer. All right. So as I mentioned, all these controls work on all available platforms exposed by MAUI, except Tizen. We did not go the extra mile and make sure that our controls work in that environment. But iOS, macOS, Android, and Windows will work just fine. One of the first controls we built from the ground up was the button control. There were a lot of things missing from it, like mouse over states. Of course, you could code it yourself, but we decided to expose it by default like you would expect in a standard button on any platform other than mobile, because having mouse over on mobile does not make sense. But if you're working on a desktop environment, it does obviously make a lot of sense. So we decided to rebuild the button control. And another feature that we added is the ability to put any type of content you want in your button. Right now, the button control for MAUI only exposes a text and image property. So it's not simple if you want to do special layouts or just create layout like I have exposed in my demo here. Another one of the controls we thought was missing and is always useful is an increase and decrease button, more in the sense of what a repeat button will do. So what does a repeat button do? There's a lot of buttons in that sentence. Anyways, is that if you click and hold the button, you're going to have the value increase instead of just having to click over and over. So it's the kind of controls you're used to see in a desktop environment, but it also makes a lot of sense on mobile as well. And that was not included in the default framework controls. Same thing with toggle button. This actually would make a lot of sense in a mobile application where you want to check options or select options. So our button now, our toggle button is checked property. So you can hook on that and have your application behave around that. Instead of having to code it yourself once again. So again, we're talking about repeat button, and button spinner is also a control that most of the time when you're building an app, you're going to be in a scenario where you need to increment and decrement a value in a layout that is similar to that. So we built it for you. So you can have increase and decrease button inside of within the text box, so you can increase and decrease value. Border is a little special. There's a few things that were not available in the border control by default on the Microsoft side, so we decided to rebuild it. It was small things like not being able to easily set a corner radius. It is possible with their border, but it's not as simple as setting a corner radius property. We also added a border thickness property so that they're all individual. So if you want to create something special that requires different thickness of borders, well, now you can with ours. Card control, well, obviously, this is the type of things we see a lot on a mobile application. It's a way to give a little bit of depth in your application. Actually, this whole sample each boxes here is using the Xceed card control. As you can see, we also expose the title property, so you don't have to fight with the layout to show a title to your card control. We talked about the repeat button, the button spinner, and now we can talk about the numeric up-downs. So as I mentioned, most of the time you'll be in need of having controls that increase or decrease values. Well, what we did is that we create a whole bunch of already typed controls. So in this case, we have byte up, int up down, and long up down. So already without doing anything, if you're working with a certain type, then the control will manage it. So in this case, if you have an unsigned value, it won't allow you to decrease below 0. And in this case, you can go above and below, no problem. We also expose a lot of things that you may need when working with the Fluent theme. So at Xceed, we decided that all of our controls would follow as closely as possible the Fluent guidelines by Microsoft. We feel like it's a great theme that works across multi-platforms. And when we're building our controls, we want to make sure that they fit perfectly fine in all platforms. So we have a bunch of things exposed for you that you can grab from our code. So in this case, I showcase all the available colors. But looking at our code will give you some ideas on how to implement this theme as well as possible. Of course, we're going to need to derive some time from the guidelines because some of the controls we're building are just not described in their documentation. I mentioned here and so much more soon. Yes, that's true. Right now, we're working on a chart control, which would allow you to have line charts and bar charts. I've been testing it myself. It's working really, really well. It performs very well with a lot of data. So that's very good news for our users. We also are working on a whole bunch of controls you would expect to see in a toolkit in WPF, for example. Expect things like expanders, sliders, switch buttons. I know the framework exposes one, but we decided to rebuild it as well to give you guys more flexibility when building your application. So again, there's a lot of controls that are coming. I'm gonna try to post a roadmap of these controls, so maybe you can comment on the roadmap. If there's something that you feel that should be more of a priority for your usage, then feel free to do so. To find this application, you just need to go on GitHub, search for Xceed MAUI, and you'll find the project. And you can just clone the branch and be able to launch this small application so you can take a look at it. And yeah. So if you have any questions about usability or just want to chat about what we're going to be building in the future, you can write to me at matt@xceed.com. It'll be my pleasure to engage in a conversation with you about MAUI, about our roadmap towards even WPF. If you want to, it'll be my pleasure. Thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, have a good day.